Hi everyone. So today we'll be understanding a few rules of editing and omission as requested by a student. So we need to first understand what is editing and what is omission. So you must have seen when you make videos or you have some, you make posters using certain application. So when you do changes to the existing thing, you suppose there is something written and you want a substitute of it, or if you draw a flower and you find that the color of the flower is not changed, is not suitable enough, so you change the color. So in that case, changing of a particular thing which is already existing, it exists, and then you change it, it's called editing. Now, editing can be done in anywhere. You can do it in multimedia also. You can do it in English grammar also. And when it comes to English grammar, editing means when you change the incorrect thing in a sentence, there will be a part of a sentence which will be incorrect and will be asked to correct it. Now, omission is when you are supposed to find out the missing thing. Omission means finding out missing thing. You don't have to change a particular thing, but you have to explain which part of a sentence needs one word. In case of omission, you will find that the words are missing in a sentence. And when you talk about your examinations, you usually get a paragraph, and in the first set of the paragraph, you will be given an example also, be it editing or omission. So the first line of the paragraph will tell you how to solve it, and the next will be done by your end. So now, if you talk about editing and omission, it is not one thing, there are many rules for it. So today we'll be understanding the rules first, and in the second part of the video, we'll be solving the exercises. So let us first start, which is now how will you find out what are the kind of errors while you are trying to check for the editing. Suppose if you see that you have to edit a sentence, then what kind of mistakes you can find out. So number one, tenses. There could be problem in the tenses also, because there are certain rules which you're going to study in the next slides. So you'll have to check if the tenses in a sentence are appropriate. If they're not appropriate, then you'll have to do the editing. Second is numbers, singular, plural. Now, for example, if I say boxes, so with a singular word, we cannot use boxes. A is singular, so it should be a box. So you have to take care of the numbers as well. Next is conjunction. Sometimes conjunctions are inappropriately used in a sentence, so you'll have to find out if the conjunctions are used properly. Spelling. Now, these kind of errors are maximum in the paragraph, so you'll have to go through verbs, modals, prepositions, and subject verb concord. Now, when it comes to omission, so if you have to find out a missing word, then what kind of words can be missing from the paragraph? They are articles. Sometimes A and the could be missing, and there are different kind of articles also, determiners also. So you'll have to find out what kind of word is missing. Next is verbs, then prepositions and conjunctions. Now let us start with the first kind of error. Now I'll explain you how this error can take place. It is subject-verb agreement. Now as the sentence suggests that there is an agreement between the subject and the verb. Now what does it mean? As per the subject, you will have the verb. For example, I just gave you an example, a boxes. So a boxes would be incorrect here. If there is the subject is going to be a single word, then verb is also going to be single. The boys walk, right? So because the boys is plural here, so the verb is going to be singular. So you have to make sure that the subject verb are in sync. They are in agreement. When speaking or writing, a sentence must have subjects and verb that agree in number. If the subject is singular, the verb must be singular. If the subject is plural, the verb must be plural as well. Now, if you see there are two examples, those two sentences I've written. The recipes is good for beginning chef. Now you see recipes is not a singular subject, it's a plural subject. And with plural subject, it is written is. So naturally you will say that it is wrong. So how will you edit the sentence? You will cut down is and you will use are instead. So the right would be the recipes are good for beginning chefs. So now this is an example of subject verb agreement where you have to make sure that the subject is in sync with the verb. If the subject is singular, then the verb is going to be singular. If the subject is plural, then the verb has to be plural. Next is an error of tense. Here is an example of a relatively simple verb tense error and its correction. Now here I'm going to show you one rule of a particular tense when it comes to past tense. So there is a sentence, after he had finished his performance, he would go to the party. Now you see there are two tenses used here. One is had and the other is would. He had finished is past perfect and would is future. So now here you understand one rule that with past perfect, we do not use would, but in the second part of the sentence, we always use simple perfect. When we are using past perfect in the first part of the sentence, then in the remaining part of the sentence, it is always be simple past. Now if I talk about after he had finished his past perfect, his performance, he would. Again, it is future. So this is an error in the tense. So now whenever you will see that there is past perfect use in any part of the sentence, so either at the beginning or in the end, we are supposed to use simple past. Next is error of conditional sentences. You must be knowing about clauses, so we are going to read them one by one. English has four conditional structures, the zero, first, second, and third. First of all, here is a quick reminder of what conditional sentences are. We use a conditional sentence to say that one event depends on another event. Very simple. Conditional means, as you can understand from the word, it means condition. So these kind of sentences are most probably used when you want to show that there are two independent events, but they are dependent on each other. If I say, if you had come to my house, I would have done this. That means if you had done this, I would have done that. So this is how when one event is actually impacted by the other event, in that case, we use conditional sentences. Conditional sentences have two parts. Now, of course, if there are conditions, then there are going to be two parts of a sentence. The first being if clause and the second being main clause. The main clause depends on the if clause. So whatever sentence will be written, but whatever phrase will be mentioned in the if clause, it will directly have an impact on the main clause. If you do this, then dash. If you do this, then dash. So if part is a different phrase, it is different clause, and following if will be main clause. We'll see some examples. Number one is zero conditional. Now there are some rules, and when you will see in the paragraph, in the passages, you will find out that zero conditional is used. So you will be able to find out what kind of error we are making. In the zero conditional, both clauses are in the present tense. So when you will have a sentence like zero conditional, you have to make sure if first part of the sentence is present, the other one also has to be present. Now, what is the first and the other? That means both the if clause and the main clause will have present tense. A common mistake is to use will. But usually what we do is that the first part, if part of the sentence is in present, and we use will in the second part, that is the main clause. So as per the zero conditional, it is wrong. It is going to be, first one is also going to be present and the second is also going to be present. Now let's see it through an example. If people eat too much, they will get fat. Now if you see the verb here, the verb is eat. Eat is not in the past tense because the past tense of eat is ate. And it is not even in the future. So if clause, if people eat too much. Now this clause, if clause is already in present. So as per the zero conditional, the main clause must also be in the present. But in the first sentence, I have used they will get fat. Now it is incorrect. So how will you correct it? How will you edit it? If people eat too much, they get fat. Now get here also present. Now moving on to the first conditional. What is the rule for the first conditional? In the first conditional, we use the present simple in the if clause and will in the main clause. Now here what you will use is, you will use simple present in the first and will in the main clause. A very common error is to pull will in the if clause. So it's a very, very small difference. In the zero conditional, the rule was that there will be if clause and main clause. If clause is also going to be present and main clause is also going to be simple present. But here what we use is, we use simple present in the if clause, but we use will in the main clause, exactly the opposite. Now, what is the common mistake that usually children do? They put will in the if clause, which is incorrect. Example, if you will. Now, you have used will here with if, which is incorrect. If clause. If you will study more, your English will get better. That means you have used two times will in a sentence. So as per the first conditional, you should remove will from the if clause and it should go like, if you study more. So you made it simple present instead of future. Your English will get better. So the if clause here is simple present and English will get better is future, which is the main clause. Now come to the second conditional. This is used for hypothetical or improbable situations. Hypothetical means which are really not sure. We use the past simple in the if clause and would in the main clause. So here what we do is in the second conditional, we are going to use if in the if clause, we are going to use simple present, simple past, I'm sorry, and would you are going to use in the main clause. Now, what often mistake we usually do? Often mistakes are made by putting would in the if clause. So what children usually do is they put the would in the if clause, which should not be used. Now let's understand it through an example. If you would study more. Right now I've used here as per the rule of second conditional, we are not supposed to use would in the if clause. So we will remove if from here and the sentence will go like, if you studied more. Now studied is simple past here, which is the condition that with the if clause, you're going to use simple past. Your English would get better. And in the main clause, you're going to use would. So this is how the second conditional goes. The third conditional. This is the most difficult conditional to master, probably as there are more auxiliary verbs to remember, and the structure is therefore quite long. Again, would should not be used in the if clause. So the third conditional is quite similar to this third one, but in this cases, you will get more of auxiliary verbs, so there could be confusion. So how would you correct it? If you would have studied more, your English would have improved. So you can simply write it like this. If you had studied more, your English would have improved. If you see the first one, in case of if you would, you have only written if you studied, which is simple past. But here it is written if you had studied. That means it is past perfect. So the changes are not much. You'll only have to use, when you're using simple past, you will only use future, simple future. If you're using past perfect, then you will use future perfect. Would have is future perfect. Next is error of participle. Now, what participle mistakes you can do? Just try to read out the sentence. Sitting down, the chair felt warm and comfortable under Anjali. Now, here, what this sentence means to say that sitting down, the chair. Immediately, you've used the chair after sitting down. That means the chair sat down. So, the correct would be sitting down, Anjali found the chair warm and comfortable. So, you'll have to see how the phrases, how the words are used in a sentence and what meaning it is giving. Next is error of nouns and pronouns. Noun and pronoun was also a grade number. Now it's a very basic example that I've given to you. A student is free to express their opinion. First statement we have written. A student is free to express their opinion. So here I think it should have mean, the incorrect sentence should have mean a students. I may have mistakenly written as student. It should be the first incorrect sentence should be a students is free. Why it is incorrect? Because with students, which is actually plural, we cannot use is. So how will you correct this? Either we do it a student is or we use students are. When you're using students, then a will be removed. When you are using students, then are is going to be used. So both the sentences are correct. A student is free to express his or her opinion is also correct, and students are free to express their opinion. Both the sentences are correct. Now let's learn about the error of articles. So one sentence is she is fastest runner. If you know that we always use est with the superlative degree whenever it is the highest form. So with the highest form, with ESD or the superlative form, we always use one article, which is the. So she is the fastest runner is wrong because with EST, we have not used the here. So this is one point you should remember whenever you're going to use EST, whenever you're going to use a superlative degree, you will always have the in it. Now, error of conjunctions, as I told you in the starting of the slide. Now, there are two kind of conjunctions used here. You need to understand how they are used. So I'll first read out the incorrect statement. As soon as he got the telegram, at once he started. Now, as soon as and at once are inappropriately used here. So how to use them correctly? You can only use as soon as in a sentence like this. As soon as he got the telegram, he started. That means you will not have to use both of them together. Or if you have to use at once, then you can rewrite the sentence as he got the telegram and started at once. Now the error of adjectives. Whenever there are comparative things like Sonia is taller of the two girls, Sonia is taller with two girls. That means there's going to be comparison between two girls and Sonia is taller. So with the comparative word, which is taller, you will always use the. It is already written here. When a group has just two members, we use the comparative with the. So if there is comparison between two people, so you will use the word, the alphabet, the article, the with the comparative part. Error of pronoun, the usage of it's there and there. Now, when you read about pronouns, you will understand, the first person, second person, and third person. So usually such kind of mistakes are also present. So the first one is, how could she blame you and he for the accident? So you and he would be incorrect here. Instead of you and he, it should be you and him. Because here, second and third person must be used and it should not be the first one. Last is error of prepositions. Now, he is independent from his parents. So instead of from, it should be he is independent of. So these are certain things that you need to understand. Instead of writing independent from, it should be independent of. Next is, we do not sell things at credit. Instead of using at credit, it should be on. So these are certain errors that you will find out in the paragraph or in the passage that you get. So you'll have to make sure that when you are reading the paragraph, these tenses, numbers, conjunction, spelling, verb, modals, prepositions, modals are can, could, may, might, etc. And subject, verb, concord, subject, verb, agreement. These things only you will get in. So in the next video, we'll try to solve out paragraph on the basis of these errors. I hope the explanation is quite clear to you. If there are any doubts, feel free to comment. Thank you.